There's something holy about the quiet just before the world wakes up. That sliver of stillness between dreaming and doing. But most of us don't even notice it. We roll over and grab the phone, we check the news, scroll through texts, tap into emails, and before we've even gotten out of bed, we've already invited the chaos in. We've allowed noise to become our normal. And it's no wonder that anxiety sits beside us at the breakfast table like an uninvited guest. But I believe God is calling us to reclaim our mornings, to declare that the first breath we take each day is not meant to brace for battle, but to birth intention. Mornings are not just a countdown to responsibilities, they are an altar. And you've got to stop rushing past your altar. We live normalized surviving through the morning. We brag about hustle culture and we're exhausting like it's a badge of honor. We live like if we're not overwhelmed and we're not doing enough. But God never told us to start the day drowning in obligation. He said, be still and know that I am God. Not hustle harder, not scroll quicker, not answer faster. Be still. There's a peace that comes with being still that hustle will never give you. But you'll never experience that peace if your first move is panic. God's presence isn't in the push, it's in the pause. When your feet hit the floor in the morning, you're stepping onto the battlefield of the mind. And the enemy loves a tired, distracted warrior. If he can get to you before the day even begins, he doesn't have to fight you at noon. He'll steal your joy before breakfast. He'll whisper fear into your thoughts before you even brush your teeth. But you've got to learn how to guard your gates early. The first 10 minutes of your morning are not just minutes, they're moments that set the tone. They're sacred, and the enemy doesn't want you to treat them like they matter. We've allowed trauma to teach us routine. Some of us don't even know we're surviving. We think it's just how life is. We think waking up with anxiety is normal. We think rushing through the morning is necessary. But what if I told you that God doesn't want your mornings to be defined by anxiety? What if the shaking hands and racing heart weren't part of his plan? What if the tension in your chest isn't strength? It's a sign that your soul is tired of surviving. You weren't made to wake up in fight or flight. You were made to rise in purpose and power. But you can't rise in purpose if you keep waking up in panic. And let me talk to the woman who's been waking up in dread. The one who opens her eyes and already feels like the day is too much. You've got a list a mile long, people depending on you, deadlines you haven't even looked at, and somewhere deep down you already feel like you're failing. But let me remind you, your value isn't in your productivity. Your worth isn't tied to your calendar. God isn't measuring your holiness by how quickly you answer emails or how full your schedule is. He's looking at your heart, and right now your heart is tired of surviving the morning. Some of us learned how to survive mornings because we were never taught to honor them. We weren't taught that mornings are sacred. We were taught to rush, taught to strive, taught to chase. But I hear God saying, come back to me. Come back to the stillness. Come back to the quiet. Your soul is craving something you keep skipping over. It's not the caffeine. It's not the to-do list. It's not the notification. It's the divine. Your soul wants to meet God before it meets the world, but you keep letting the world get to you first. And it's no wonder you feel off. You're out of alignment. Every morning is a mirror. It shows you what you really believe. If you believe you're behind, you'll rush. If you believe you're not enough, you'll strive. If you believe no one's in your corner, you'll panic. But if you believe that God has already gone before you, then you'll rest. You'll rise slowly. You'll breathe deeply. You'll pray intentionally. And it's not that the problems disappear. It's that you're no longer facing them from an empty place. You're full, you're covered, you're grounded. Mornings are where faith is formed, not in the loud moments, but in the quiet ones. That moment when you open your eyes and whisper, God, thank you. That breath before the day begins where you remind yourself, I'm not in this alone. That sacred pause before the world starts pulling at you, where you declare, peace is mine. You don't have to perform your way into peace. You just have to prepare your space for it. Set the tone before the world tries to set it for you. Command the atmosphere before the chaos commands you. Some of you need to stop letting the enemy rehearse your failures first thing in the morning. You're waking up, and before you even put your feet on the floor, the devil is reminding you of everything you didn't do yesterday, every mistake, every delay, every insecurity, and you're wondering why you feel anxious before breakfast. It's because you're starting your day with shame, but shame is not your morning ritual. Grace is. Mercy is. The word says his mercies are new every morning. That means your reset isn't just a mindset, it's a promise. You get to begin again. But you can't walk in that promise if you keep rehearsing your past. You can't expect to walk in power when we start our mornings in panic. God doesn't want his daughters crawling through the day. He wants you rooted, grounded, anchored, not just spiritually, but practically. That means building rhythms that honor your mind, body, and spirit. That might look like waking up before the noise, lighting a candle, sitting in silence, journaling your thoughts, reading scripture aloud, taking your authority back before the world tries to strip it from you. It's not about religion, it's about rhythm. Your soul craves rhythm, but you keep feeding it rush. Do you know what happens when you start your day with intention instead of anxiety? You start to walk different, talk different, react different. You stop moving from fear and start moving from discernment. You stop letting emails dictate your energy. You stop letting text determine your tone. You stop letting other people's emergencies become your crisis, because you're not out here surviving, you're rooted. And when a woman is rooted, there's not a storm on earth that can shake her loose. We've got to start saying our mornings as more than preparation. They're consecration. They're not just the beginning of the day. They're the moment where you align with heaven, where you silence the noise, where you remember who you are. The world wants you to believe that you're behind, that you've got to catch up, that you've got to compete. But heaven is saying, be still. I've got you. That stillness isn't laziness. It's strategy. That pause isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And some of you have been missing divine instruction because you keep rushing past your revelation. Your morning is the first offering you give to the day. And I don't know about you, but I want my offering to be pure. I want it to be drenched in gratitude, wrapped in expectation, laced with power. I don't want to offer the day my exhaustion. I want to offer it my intention. I want to walk into every room knowing that I started with God, that I didn't just survive my way out the door. I anointed my feet before I walked through it. That's what sacred mornings look like. Not perfect, not polished, but intentional, anchored. Some of you need to repent for how you've been treating your mornings, not in shame, but in surrender. You've been giving your first moments to worry instead of worship. You've been giving your breath to burdens instead of blessings, but it's not too late to shift. The kingdom isn't asking you to be flawless. It's asking you to be faithful. And faithfulness looks like showing up with intention. Sitting still even when your mind races, choosing prayer over panic, choosing breath over busyness, choosing sacred over survival. Peace doesn't just show up. It's not some magical state that floats in when the world finally quiets down. It's not something you stumble upon in a perfectly lit room with a hot cup of tea and the sound of rain outside. That's ambience, that's comfort. But peace, real, soul deep peace, that kind of peace is chosen. It's created, it's protected. It's what happens when you look chaos in the face and still choose calm. It's what rises in you when everything around you is falling apart, but you refuse to come undone with it. Peace is not a circumstance. Peace is your birthright, your posture, your weapon. And you have to fight for it like your life depends on it, because sometimes it does. We've been waiting for life to calm down before we calm down. But what if life never does? What if the bills are always due? What if the kids are always loud? What if the relationship never looks like the fairy tale you imagine? What if you never get the apology? What if the closure never comes? What if the storm doesn't stop? Does that mean you never get to experience peace? No, sis. That just means peace has to stop being external and start becoming internal. It has to stop being circumstantial and start becoming intentional. You don't wait for peace, you declare it. You build it, you embody it. Peace isn't passive, it's not soft, it's not weak. Peace is fierce, it's bold, it's gritty. It's that sacred resistance that says, I will not let this break me. You've got to understand that peace is a spiritual position. It's the place you run to when the world starts running at you. It's not denial, it's discernment. It's not pretending everything's okay. Is knowing that even if it's not, you still are. It's sheathing to protect your energy, your spirit, your mind, your boundaries, and your breath. Peace is an act of spiritual rebellion against everything that tries to pull you into panic. Too many of us are negotiating our peace for people who don't even understand the cost. You're forfeiting your calm to be liked. You're abandoning your stillness just to be included. You're trading your sanity for acceptance. And God is saying, I didn't call you to perform for peace. I called you to carry it. The peace God gives is not attached to a mood, a paycheck, or another person's opinion. It's not fragile. It's not temporary. It's not emotional. It is everlasting. It is grounding. It is yours. And you don't need a perfect situation to tap into it. You just need the permission to choose it. And baby girl, you already have it. I know you've been through things that shook you. I know there were seasons when peace felt like a myth, when your world shattered and all you had left were fragments of yourself. I know what it's like to sleep next to worry and wake up with anxiety. I know what it's like to sit in a room full of people and still feel like you're drowning. But I also know what it feels like when God walks into your chaos and whispers, peace, be still, and not just to the storm outside, but to the one inside your soul. That kind of peace doesn't always change the situation, but it will always change you. We've made peace feel like a destination, something we arrive at when we've checked all the boxes. But peace is not the prize at the end, it's the path along the way. You walk in it. You live from it. You wake up and choose it even when everything in your life says you shouldn't. You say, yes, I've got issues, but I also have peace. You say, yes, I'm waiting, but peace walks with me. You say, yes, I'm waiting, but I won't lose my mind in the meantime. You stop giving chaos a seat at your table. You stop letting confusion drive your decisions. You stop letting fear rent space in your spirit. Some of us are praying for peace, but partnering with pressure. We say we won't rest, but we won't let go. We say we want stillness, but we stay in toxic patterns. We say we want quiet, but we keep inviting noise into our hearts. And God is saying, I'm trying to give you peace, but you keep choosing panic. Sis, peace can't live where dysfunction is protected. You've got to unclench your fists, release the weight, cut the ties. Silence the lies. Peace won't dwell in a divided space. You have to decide, do you want to keep carrying the chaos or do you want to carry the calm? Peace isn't just for when everything's gone right. It's for when you've been crying at 2 a.m. and nobody knows. It's for when the diagnosis comes back and the fear tries to flood in. It's for when you're smiling in public but breaking in private. It's for when you're in the middle of the waiting room not knowing what's next. It's for when your heart has been broken and you don't even have the strength to pray out loud. That's when peace wraps itself around you. That's when God steps in, not with noise, but with the quiet reassurance that he's still God and you're still held. Mm-hmm. You don't need the storm to end to find peace. You need to invite peace into the storm. Peace will teach you how to breathe when everything else is screaming. Peace will show you how to anchor yourself in the middle of emotional waves. Peace will remind you who you are when fear tries to make you forget. And you've got to get bold about protecting that peace. You've got to say no more. No more letting people steal it. No more letting overthinking sabotage it. No more letting your past disqualify it. Peace is a gift, but it's also a guard. And baby, you need to put some boundaries around it. And let me tell you something about God's peace. It doesn't always make sense. It's not logical. It's not based on facts. It's not rooted in what's happening around you. It's born out of what's happening in you. It's that peace that surpasses all understanding kind of peace. That I should be losing my mom, but I'm not kind of peace. That I cried last night, but joy still met me this morning kind of peace. And if you're going to carry that kind of peace, you have to be willing to release everything that competes with it. Some of y'all are addicted to chaos because peace feels unfamiliar. You've been so used to drama, dysfunction, and damage that calm feels uncomfortable. You sabotage stillness because it feels like silence. But peace is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of alignment. You've got to unlearn survival mode. You've got to break up with the adrenaline of being busy. You've got to stop equating stillness with laziness. I think there's healing in the hush. There's clarity in the calm. But you can't receive it if you're constantly running from it. Peace is not a vibe. It's not an aesthetic. It's not a filtered morning routine with perfectly placed coffee cups and fake smiles. It's internal, it's spiritual, it's sacred. Peace is the fruit of trust. When you trust God, really trust him. You stop trying to micromanage outcomes. You stop trying to control what you were only meant to surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means handing over. It means saying, God, I don't have all the answers, but I trust you anyway. And peace flows wherever trust is planted. You have to learn how to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. Stop letting the atmosphere dictate your emotional climate. You walk in and bring peace with you. You don't absorb the room, you transform it. You don't let other people's chaos become your condition. You don't shrink because tension is thick. You rise, you breathe, you anchor, because peace lives in you and the world didn't give it, so the world can't take it away. Angus, you are not a sponge. You are a sanctuary, and peace is your protection. There is a war going on every morning, and it doesn't start in the streets. It starts in your mind before you get out of bed. Before you wash your face, before you open the door to face the world, the enemy is already at work trying to plant lies into the soil of your soul. He knows if he can get to your mind, he can get to your momentum. If he can get to your thoughts, he can twist your truth. And too many of us have been waking up and walking straight into that battlefield without our armor on. No declarations, no affirmations, no prayers, no reminders of who we are. And that silence, that absence of your own voice, that silence of your own voice, that's the open door where the enemy creeps in with his suggestions. We've been taught to wake up ready for battle, to roll out of bed with our fists already clenched and our guard already up, as if life is something we have to wrestle to the ground before it breaks us first. We've been conditioned to believe that struggle is the only language God speaks. That breakthrough only comes after we've bled for it, cried for it, fought tooth and nail for it. But what if I told you there's another way? What if I told you that the kingdom flow isn't about waking up to fight, but waking up to flow, to align, to rest while moving, to breathe while building, to create without crumbling? There's a difference between waking up to fight and waking up to flow. Fighting makes you clench, it makes you brace, it makes you rush and panic and prove. Flow, on the other hand, is born from trust. Flow moves with grace. It rides the rhythm of heaven. It doesn't force, it follows. It doesn't demand, it discerns. Flow says, I don't have to chase what's already mine. Flow says, I don't need to compete when I'm in alignment with God. Flow says, I'm not grinding to get ahead. I'm growing into who I already am. We confuse movement with momentum. We confuse noise with progress. But just because you're busy doesn't mean you're in flow. Just because you're exhausted doesn't mean you're effective. There's a stillness that lives inside divine movement. There's a quiet that walks alongside the called. You don't have to scream to be powerful. You don't have to run yourself into the ground to be worthy. The flow of God doesn't burn you out. It fills you up. It restores. It heals. It multiplies your effort with supernatural ease. That doesn't mean it's always easy. Flow isn't about avoiding the hard things. It's about knowing that even in the hard things, you are not alone. That you're not you're the vessel. That you're not creating the river, you're riding it. That you're not pushing your purpose into existence with the last scraps of your strength. You're walking in what's already been written. And when you know that, you stop panicking. You stopped forcing timelines. You stop comparing your pace because you realize favor has a flow and all you have to do is follow it. There are people who wake up every day bracing for war when God already gave them the victory. You're living like you're still in survival when heaven has already written success over you. You're waking up swinging at shadows, at fear, at shame, at doubt, at lies that no longer belong to you. But when you flow, you shift from reaction to revelation. You stop living by default and start living. Flow lets you hear what fighting drowns out. Flow lets you catch what striving misses. There are blessings flying right past you because you're too busy swinging to receive. Flow is not passive. It's not lazy. It's not checking out a responsibility. Flow is holy. It's focused. It's rooted. It's when you wake up and remember, I don't have to do this alone today. It's when you say, Holy Spirit, show me the rhythm. Show me where to step. Show me where to speak. Show me when to move. It's when your morning becomes more than just a schedule. It becomes sacred space. You begin your day not with anxiety, not with pressure, but with presence. You shift from rushing to receiving, from performing to positioning, from reacting to releasing. Sometimes flow looks like slowing down. Not everything needs your immediate reaction. Not every door is yours to walk through. Not every opportunity is divine. Flow teaches you to wait on the unforced rhythms of grace. Flow says, if it's not in alignment, it's not for me. Flow says, if I have to compromise my peace to gain it, I don't want it. And that's where your power lives, in your discernment, in your ability to recognize when it's time to move and when it's time to be still, when it's time to speak and when it's time to pray. There is a version of you that only exists in flow. She doesn't show up when you're stressed. She doesn't come alive when you're overthinking. She's not loud. She's not desperate. She's rooted. She's present. She's led. She doesn't rush her healing. She doesn't rush her growth. She lets the Spirit carry her. And baby, when she shows up, she's unstoppable. When she walks into the room, she doesn't announce her power. She flows in it. As she doesn't perform, she pours. She doesn't beg, she builds. That version of you is waiting on you to surrender to the flow. Waking up to fight will make you chase things that were never assigned to you. But waking up to flow will lead you into divine encounters, divine timing, divine connections. You'll start meeting the right people without striving. You'll start receiving clarity without anxiety. You'll start unlocking doors without pounding on them. Because flow is what happens when your spirit is open and your heart is aligned. You're not operating from lack, you're operating from overflow. You're not driven by fear, you're guided by faith. So many of us are exhausted, not because we're doing too much, but because we're doing things outside the flow. We're saying yes when God told us to say no. We're hustling for approval when God already called us enough. We're overextending, overcommitting, overthinking, and we call it ambition, but really it's avoidance. Avoiding the stillness, avoiding surrender, avoiding the intimacy that flow requires. And because flow doesn't let you hide. Flow confronts you. Flow invites you to be fully present. And presence is hard when your soul is still carrying unprocessed pain. Flow will ask you to let go of control. And that's scary. Because many of us have equated control with safety. We think if we can predict it, we can protect ourselves from pain. But control is an illusion. It's a coping mechanism. It's the child in us trying to prevent what already happened from happening again. But flow is grown woman energy. Flow says, I may not know what's next, but I trust who's leading me. Flow is when faith becomes your map, not your fallback. When trust becomes your rhythm, not your backup plan.